What's up, my friend? Thank you for being here on That's Awesome with Ryan McPartlin. Let me quickly explain something. I know that some of you tuned in to the Awesome Business Podcast with Ryan McPartlin. Here's the deal. The shoe just didn't fit. I love learning about people's businesses, but I also love learning about them as a person, the relationships, the struggles they overcame, everything else. So I had to take a break and reevaluate what this was going to be. In doing so, I consulted with Dr. Bob Husband, my University of Illinois professor, and just really dug into the episodes I'd already done and tried to figure out where I wanted to go from here. And it just became very clear that "that's awesome" was one of the first phrases that my character, Captain Awesome, ever said on the TV show Chuck. If you haven't watched it, it's on HBO Max. I highly recommend it for the whole family. It's one of the best series of all time, and people watch it over and over again for a reason. Trust me on this one. But the interesting thing about Captain Awesome is he really wanted everyone to be awesome. He really wanted to encourage everyone to be their best. And I felt like that's what I want out of this. And it doesn't matter what it is in life, if it's relationship struggles, mental health challenges, getting a new job, being in a business. How do you overcome the business you're in to pivot to another one? I want everyone to be awesome. So I had to look at the format and say, how am I going to deliver the best product possible for you? Right? I started thinking about what I do best. I'm a storyteller. I'm involved in stories every day. Character, conflict, catharsis. That's what a great story does. It goes back to Aristotle. Don't worry. If you didn't pass English in high school, you're not alone. I'll just tell you that. But that's what the format is of this. I want everybody to treat this like a television series. We're going to pick one episode, one story of somebody's life, and just kind of watch that episode with them. And just like a great show like Ted Lasso or Friday Night Lights or Chuck, at the end of it, we're going to feel a little bit changed. We're going to come away with a little bit of a different perspective. And I'm going to kick this off by being my own first guest. That's right, a solo episode, which if you've never been a podcast host, it's very intimidating to sit and talk by yourself and feel like you're being of value, because I love bringing people on and talking to them and finding out about their lives and asking questions. But being vulnerable like this can be tough. All right. I'm going to talk about something that I haven't talked about a lot in the past. Not that I'm ashamed of it, but I just don't think I really had the perspective on it until I evaluated through this lens. And it's the audition for Captain Awesome for Chuck. That's the episode in my life that I want to focus on right now. I'm going to try and keep it tight, but if you know me, I can talk and talk and talk. Just ask any of my castmates or my family. But we're going to try and keep this to a limit. All right. So let's go back to 2007 and why it was just born. I'm a new dad. I had some success on TV at that point. I've already been on Passions on NBC, the daytime soap opera, and Living with Fran, but hadn't saved up a lot of money, just bought a new house, the house that we're still in today. And, I was broke. I was up against it. Actors are not very good at financial planning. Plus, we pay a lot of money out to agents and managers and lawyers and everybody else. Gerard Butler once told me 33 cents on the dollar, Ryan. That's how much you walk away with after everything. I was like, really? No, I'm going to find a way around that. No, he's right. 33 cents on the dollar. So if you're looking to go into acting, just be prepared to save up and do a side hustle too. So here we are, 2007. We're at the end of pilot season. And if you don't know what pilot season is, it's when actors audition for a lot of pilots. Those pilots, only a few get made into series, and those series, only a few last more than one season. So at least you get the pilot and you go, okay, I got a paycheck for a little while until I do another Hallmark movie or small part in another movie, hoping for the big break, right? So this was the end of pilot season, meaning that it wasn't going to happen for another year at the time. Now things are different. End of pilot season, I have this audition on a Saturday. It was a callback, what I thought was a test or a screen test, if you will, for a series regular role called Captain Awesome. It was a really small role. I didn't know much about it other than breezing through the script and saying, oh, this is my shot. It's my shot. It really seems like I could play this character. And, I had a buddy, Thad Luckenbill at the time, was getting married on that weekend in Montana. And I would call Thad and say, dude, I'm up against it financially. I got a kid to support. I got a house payment now. I got to stay back. So I was already filled with a ton of guilt going into the audition. Not good. Then I get in the room and I see this guy that I worked with. I was a guest star. And if you don't know what a guest star on a show is, a guest star will come on, not get paid a lot of money, but you have a little part. It's a fun part usually, and then you're off, right? So I was on this guy's show a couple months before, and I was jealous of all of them. They seemed like they were having so much fun. They were making a lot of money. And then I see this guy in the room. I'm like, dude, what are you doing here? You're a series regular on an ABC show. You can't be here right now. He said, no, I don't know if that show's going to go for another season. So my agent said, go ahead and come do this because it's not a series regular role anymore. I was like, what? He's like, yeah, it's not a series regular. It's a recurring role. And again, to over-explain, but to give you some context, a recurring role is like a guest starring role that comes on multiple times. It is a small fraction of what a series regular role gets paid. So there I am feeling guilty for missing Thad's wedding. Now doing all the finances in my head of what this would pay, even if I got it. And it still has to go to series at that point. It's just for a pilot. I was like, what am I doing? What is happening? This is terrible. And I'm like, wait a second, is this guy messing with me? Is he getting in my head? Because he was one of those dudes that totally intimidates you, before an interview. I was like, oh God, is he freaking with me right now? Anyhow, they call my name, Ryan McPartlin. You ready? And I'm like, God, here I go. I'm like, sure, of course, because I'm from the Midwest and we have the disease to please. And we don't want to say, no, give me 5 minutes. I got to go clear my head right now, which I should have done. And I go into the room and I see Josh Schwartz and Chris Fedak, who I already auditioned for once before that. And it went well. And now I'm here to perform at another level with Zach Levi, McG, who's a big movie director. And right away, I see McG. And I go, oh, I know somebody who's friends with him. Maybe I should tell McG that I know that guy because maybe that'll I don't know, give me the job. I don't know. It was such stupid thoughts that go through your head as an actor. And then you go, oh, no. Well, there's Chris and Josh, and then there's Zach. Oh, I should say hi to Zach. I know some people who know Zach. Wait, this isn't a coffee date. It's not lunch. This is an interview for a job. Okay, I got to focus. And I'm still thinking about everything the dude told me, missing the wedding, my newborn at home. Didn't sleep the night before because he was up all night. No big deal. And then we start into it. They're like, you ready? I'm like, sure, let's go. And I start auditioning. I know the beats and get halfway through it. And I blank, totally blank. And I just smiled. I was like, whoa, I don't know what happened there, guys. Let's just rewind that and go back again. Still don't take a beat to go look at the pages and say, hey, guys, I need a few minutes. Just got to clear my head. Nope. Just let's rush right back into it again. And I did. And needless to say, I blanked again. Same spot. It was just a mental hiccup. And it's one of those things that I just didn't think I could do a third time and live with myself. So what did I do? Did I tell him about all the thoughts swimming in my head? No, I ended up saying, wait, before I said this, Josh Schwartz goes, hey, Ryan, just hold the pages. Read it off there, which tells me that they thought that I could be the guy. But for some reason, I was like, no, I don't work that way. What a dumb thing to say. And I go, no, that's all I got for you guys. And he said, I'm sorry, what? I'm like, no, that's all I got for you guys. Yep, just not my day. But I'm like, you guys have an awesome show. This is going to be great. And I just fist bumped every one of them. I gave him a fist bump and left the room. And I said, thanks, guys. I really appreciate your time. I walked out. And I was just being real. I didn't want to give him excuses. I played football before. I know coaches don't want to hear excuses. It's either you play and you provide results or you don't. So I get in the car. Tears start coming down the face, just like, what an idiot. What an idiot. I don't know. It was like Philip Seymour Hoffman in Boogie Nights, that clip of him just like, you're such an idiot. And, my agent calls in the middle of my meltdown. And she goes, what happened? And I give her the whole story, everything that's going on. And she buried the lead because she said, well, they're still giving you the part. So I don't know what you did in there, but it worked. I'm like, who's giving who a part? Like, what are you talking about? That was the worst audition of my life. And I don't know, but I didn't question it. I took it. I was like, this is great. Thank you. And I didn't care that it wasn't a series regular part anymore. I was working, and then we're off to the races. Now, I tell you this because what's so interesting to me is I didn't know at the time the cathartic moment. I didn't know really the lesson to take away from that. For me, it was about like Chuck had a 5-season, 92 or 93 episode run, but that first season, I still didn't feel like I really truly belonged. Not only did I blow the audition, I didn't own it, but I just was like, oh, everyone else is a series regular and I'm a guest star recurring character. These labels we put on ourselves and have in our head, right? But I will say that we went to Comic-Con, and at Comic-Con, they invited me, which I thought was such an honor because I wasn't really a series regular at this point. And, the audience was 10,000 people in Hall H at Comic-Con. If anybody's been to the San Diego Comic-Con, you'll know what I'm talking about. They reserve it for the big Marvel and DC and everything else. But our fan base at Comic-Con, we were like the Beatles. But everybody got introduced. And when they called Zach Levi's name, I was like, oh man, they always save the star for last. And Zach definitely was the star. He was the glue that held that show together. But I was like, oh, all right, that's cool. I'm left behind backstage. They forgot me, but that's all right. I'll just hang out back here till the end of the panel. And then they said, and you guys know him as Captain Awesome. And then I was like, what? They didn't forget. I went out there. I literally almost tore my shirt off. I was like high-fiving everybody, running up and down. I was like so ecstatic. And what I've come to find was that they were really planning to kill me off after the first season, make me like a Russian spy. That would have been hard to pull off that accent because I'm not good at accents, but they were going to make me a Russian spy and kill me off at the end of the first season. But Captain Awesome became a fan favorite. And if you guys know the history of Chuck, you know that our fans really saved our show year after year. We were always on the bubble of coming back or not. And it was a time before streaming and people could binge it. And the show was ahead of its time. So our fans had to do a subway campaign and a write-in campaign and all kinds of things. But it was the first time I felt like, oh man, I really belong on this show now. And then I was made a series regular, and everything really worked out. I felt like fantastic. As a matter of fact, I'm going to give you a little spoiler alert here, but Captain Awesome was the first one to find out that Chuck was a spy. And what's really amazing is that the joke is Captain Awesome can do anything. He can climb mountains. He can, skydive. He's a surgeon. He can do anything. He's a cardiothoracic surgeon. But they wrote the character, and when he found out that Chuck was a spy, he melted down. He couldn't handle it. He couldn't handle the pressure. And I asked Chris Fedak years later while we were on the picket line for the WGA, I asked him, I go, did you guys know that like right away after my audition? He goes, what are you talking about? He goes, I don't even remember that. I was like, really? You don't remember I melted down? Like, we never talked about that, but I was blown away that I got the job. And he's like, no, they were going to get rid of me, but I became a fan favorite. And I just never really analyzed it until I started looking through this lens. And, I also later found out that a lot of other actors that auditioned for it played it in a very condescending way, but not me, because, I think I am Captain Awesome. Captain Awesome is me in the sense that we want everyone to be awesome. Chuck, Ellie, Morgan, everyone. We want everyone to succeed and do well. And that's what this podcast is about for me. And that's why I chose this story, because, in the end, we just got to get out of our own heads, right? Be present, do the work, and surrender to something bigger than ourselves. And on that day, I couldn't get out of my head. I will say that after evaluating everything with Dr. Bob Husband, I did have an authenticity about me that seeped into the subconscious of the writers. And they ended up writing this guy who wants everyone to be awesome, including himself, but sometimes has a meltdown and sometimes stumbles and falls and has failures. And I think that's so true in life for all of us, right? But most of all, I think that the big cathartic lesson that I took away from that is I really rooted for them to have a good show, to have a great show, even though I didn't think I was going to be a part of it at that point. And I think in life, if we do more of that, if we root for everyone to be awesome, whether it affects us or not, it's going to come back around. Maybe not in the way that we want, but in the way that we need. So that's what I'm going to leave you guys with today. Be authentic, be yourself, be awesome, and surrender to something bigger than yourself. And I can't wait for you to listen to the next episode because it's somebody who might be a little more awesome than me. That's a clue. Thanks again for listening, guys. Make sure to like and subscribe, and be sure to share with any family and friends that you want to be more awesome. Also, if you want to reach out to me, DM me at Ryan McPartlin on Instagram.